but I would walk all those animals up to the veterinarian who was about 3.5 blocks away. And this guy always treated them, gave me, whatever the medicine was, and never charged me. And so when I became a practitioner, I have done volunteer work with my students and all that for free for my entire career, and also treating wildlife for free.
So even not growing up with pets, you knew.
This episode of Grounded in Maine is sponsored by ESG Review. ESG Review magazine is published quarterly in February, May, August, and November, and is available for free in print and digital formats. ESG Review is devoted to environmental, social, and governance strategies, technologies, and investments. ESGreview.net is updated every Wednesday with 8 new stories and is home to feature articles, news items, and more. Visit esgreview.net to stay informed and help us spark the collaboration and awareness needed to develop sustainable economies and communities around the world.
There's a place where there's no trouble, no more pain, no more struggle.
Grounded in Maine podcast is an open conversation about how we show up for the world. I started this podcast out of a desire to learn new ways to be sustainable because the word sustainability is big. It can be overwhelming, and I just wanted to learn, different ways to try to be part of the solution and not feel like it's too late. So I'm talking to people who are doing different things and learning so much. I hope you are too. Hi there. Thank you so much for listening to Grounded in Maine today. My name is Amy Fagan, and my guest today is Dr. Marlene Siegel, and we are talking about a couple of different things, but one of her main focuses is veterinary medicine or taking care of pets, and she's got some good tips and information for us. So, Dr. Siegel, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Amy. I'm so excited to share with your audience.
Yay. As a loving pet owner, this is something that is near and dear to my heart, and I'm really excited to learn more about how I can be a better pet owner, pet parent, and I know that there are other people. Speaking of, did you see that?
I didn't.
My cat just walked right in the room. But we want to do the best that we can and do well by them and have them live longer, healthier lives. And so this is really important to me, and I'm looking forward to learning all of what you have to say about that.
Thank you so much.
And so you're a veterinarian. How long have you been practicing veterinary medicine?
40 years, 40. And that doesn't include medical school. That's literally from graduation.
Yeah. Oh, that's how long you've been practicing, not even
practicing for 40 years. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And what got you into
it?
Yeah.
So I think I came out of the womb knowing I was going to be a veterinarian. So all kidding aside, I never played with dolls. It was always stuffed animals. And I didn't have any pets growing up. My parents would not let me have a dog. My mom had gone in for a women's surgery thing, and we stopped in the little gift shop downstairs before we went up to see her. I was probably 10 years old. And I saw this little ceramic cat that had sapphire blue eyes. So of course I named it Blue Eyes. And my dad bought it for me, and I bathed it. I talked to it. I taught it tricks. I fed it. I thought in my little own make-believe world it was real. Well, if I would have known it was this easy, I would have done it so much sooner. But my dad was watching me, and he goes, I am not going to have my kid going around thinking that a ceramic doll is real. We got to get her an animal. So I got my first dog. I would have done horses and everything else if I would have known it was that easy. But I ended up getting my first dog. But even before I got my dog, I was so animal crazy that kids at school, in elementary school, now we're talking under 6th grade, they would bring their sick gerbils and birds and injured wildlife, and they would bring it to me. Not really sure how or why, but I would walk all those animals up to the veterinarian, who was about 3.5 blocks away. And this guy always treated them, gave me, whatever the medicine was, and never charged me. And so when I became a practitioner, I have done volunteer work with my students and all that for free for my entire career, and also treating wildlife for free.
Oh my
Pay
God.
it forward.
So even not growing up with pets, you knew.
I played with stuffed animals, and everything was about animals. I would catch lizards in our patio. I lived in South Florida. And then I would make it a little home in a glass jar with little holes punched in the top. And I would put ants in there to feed it. They never ate it, by the way. And I always released them before they died. But, I was trying to have a pet. I
Mhm.
just loved, loved, loved animals.
Wow, that's awesome. I used to think that I wanted to be not even a vet, but just like a vet tech. I did do I did a course for veterinary assistants years and years ago, but in learning about that, it is so I get so emotional about pets. Like I myself, just myself with my own pets, I have a hard time bringing them in. Like I am, this is going to sound really bad, but I won't have their teeth cleaned because I worked for a vet for 2 weeks and I was traumatized by what happened.
Yeah.
Sorry, you guys. It's awful. And I hope that
Well,
your
let's clear
practice
the
is better
trauma.
than that. But so I just won't, I can't do it. And if there are any, I mean, now I have a dog who bites hands, so I have to be there. And they're like, oh no, she'll be fine. I'm like, I do not want you to get bit, without, not on my watch. So I'm always present for anything, unless it's, the cats I'm fine with, but the dog, we have to
Uh,
knock her out to have anything done, even nails clipped. So
uh,
it's a process and it's very expensive. But
but the thing is that if people understood what a sustainable lifestyle is like for their pets, it would be very different than the lifestyle that most people are experiencing right now. So we have a lot of people that'll come in, and because they know I do integrative or holistic medicine, it's actually bioregulatory medicine, because we find what the root cause of the problem is and we fix the root cause. We don't just do symptom suppression. And so people will come in and they'll go, oh, I don't want to put my animal on a flea and tick product because I know how toxic that is. But they're feeding processed foods.
right.
So are you really trying to have the healthiest, most sustainable lifestyle for your pet? Or are you picking and choosing what you do and don't want to spend your money on? So, I'd love to share my 6 steps so that the readers have a tangible pathway to follow, because it's really pretty straightforward and simple.
Yes,
Is that
please.
okay? And I do
Yeah.
have a PDF that goes with this. So if they want to download the PDF, we can make that available.
Oh, cool.
So step number 1 is we have to stop doing the things that are causing dis-ease. And by the way, I said dis-ease because there is no disease in the world. There is imbalance. There is a lack of homeostasis. There is terrain upheaval, but there is no disease. It's literally a lack of homeostasis and a lack of balance in the body.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
what causes that? Well, along the lines of number 1, what do we need to stop doing? We need to stop feeding processed foods. We need to stop having all the hormones, chemicals, pesticides in the diet. We need to have a more sustainable diet. What would they eat in the wild if we weren't around? That's what we need to feed. And then water, tap water has over 100,000 toxins, from heavy metals to glyphosate to all kinds of drugs. It's not being filtered by our water municipalities. Maybe with our new administration, that looks like it might change and they're going to update water laws. But right now, tap water is very toxic, particularly in Florida. And that's where I'm at. Number 3 is the environment. We need to stop using these commercial products that are full of propylene glycol, and they have petroleum products in them. And there's so many carcinogens, things that cause cancer in so many of these cleaning products. We need to get rid of that and get back to the basics. Essential oils, vinegar. I mean, there's so many hydrogen peroxide. There's so many recipes online for healthier ways to clean your bathroom and clean your counters and clean your floors, because your animals are exposed to all of that. Even though
Well, and they're lower to the ground. So if you're like washing the floor and the counters and stuff like that, like they're
yeah,
going to get any
yes, and
before we do.
per square foot of body area, they're actually absorbing more.
Mm.
And then we need to look at the electromagnetic frequencies that are being produced. So many people love their smart appliances. I hate smart appliances. Wi-Fi routers, if you live near a 5G tower, all these impacts of that electromagnetic pollution is affecting us and our pets. Also, air quality, check your home for mold. In Florida, that's one of the biggest things I see
I'm sure with the
that are
humidity.
tripping these animals, is that they're just exposed to so much mold and people aren't aware of that. And it causes so many chronic illnesses. And then last but not least, the ants that live in our brain. And ants are the automatic negative thoughts that we humans have cranking around in our little brains. And what happens is when you have a negative thought, you literally create negative neurotransmitters from those thoughts that then travel through your fascia system down to your cells. And it's communicating to your cells, what is the outside environment like? Is it hostile? Is it friendly? Do you need to run for your life, or can you relax and enjoy life and reproduce and eat comfortably? What does that look like? And so these are really very important principles, because our animals entrain to our energy. So if it's a household where the parents are very negative, they're fighting a lot, the glass is always half empty, there's always a disaster around the corner, everything is terrible, that animal who looks to its pet parent as their pack leader, all it knows is that my pack leader is in high sympathetic tone. Something horrible is out there and it's going to happen. And so even if they're laying down and they look like they're relaxing, inside their cortisol levels are going to be high.
So they just totally pick up on our energy,
And
whatever.
train to it 100%. Yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
that's not a woo-woo principle, Amy. That's physics principle.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, just like when we go to a really good sermon or a thought leader, somebody who's really a powerful, good, strong, encouraging, inspirational leader, we leave that talk feeling like we could do that too.
Right.
And we've been around the energy vampires. Those are the people who, after 30 minutes, you have to go home and take a bath and take a nap because they have just sucked you dry. So those are our extremes. So we know entrainment is a really big principle. And it's a matter of helping our pet parents become aware of their own behavior so that they can start improving their behavior, which will ultimately improve their pet's well-being as well.
Okay. That all makes sense. So okay, we know what not to do and we know what to be careful of. So what
Okay.
do
Now,
we
step
do?
number 2 in my 6-step process is supply all the essential nutrients that the body needs to do its job. An essential nutrient are those nutrients that the body cannot manufacture in sufficient quantities on its own. It's interesting that when we eat protein, that protein will be broken down in our digestive system into little individual amino acids. Those amino acids pass through the gut lining into the bloodstream, and it's traveled to the liver. And the liver is going to warehouse those amino acids and build the things that it needs to build at the time it needs to build it. But the essential amino acids and vitamins and fatty acids, those have to be provided in the diet because the body can't make them. So what do we know about the agricultural world that we're living in right now? Non-regenerative farming, not good permaculture. The industrial farming is really growing food on nutrient depleted soils. So if the soil doesn't have the proper spectrum of minerals and nutrients, then the plant's not going to have it. It may grow because you're putting fertilizer on it, but it doesn't mean it has all those nutrients in it.
Yeah.
Right. And so then if you or your pet is eating that plant material, or the herbivore that your dog is going to eat is eating that plant material, it's a cascade effect that everybody becomes nutrient deficient. So that's a big problem. And then, of course, toxicity. We have to be dealing with toxicity in well, let me get ahead of myself. So step number 2, supply all the essential nutrients. And we have them all on my website: vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, and amino acids. Number 3 is heal the leaky gut. So leaky gut is a condition where the gut membrane, which separates your outside world from your mouth to the anus, is a long tube. And that's considered the outside world because it's connected from here to the other end. So everything that's passing through there is technically outside your body.
Mm.
When it passes through that gut membrane, it's a selective membrane, and it only is supposed to allow certain size molecules to come in. And that would be after proper digestion, the size of an amino acid or a vitamin or a mineral, and that is allowed to come in. And it's sent over to the liver, and all is good. But when we damage that gut lining, such as glyphosate, such as cortisol, where do we get cortisol from? Stress. When we're under high stress and we're in high sympathetic tone, we're producing the stress hormone cortisol. Well, one of the things cortisol does is it punches holes in our gut lining, which is not a good thing, but that's the side effect of allowing all of that extra blood and energy to go to your muscles and your arms, so that if danger were there, you could run hard or fight hard. But then once the danger's gone and you've hopefully survived, then that danger's over. You now move into the repair, rest, and digest system, which is the parasympathetic nervous system, and all of that gets repaired. So that's how it works in a perfect world. But what happens in our modern world is the toxins and the damage and the stress never goes away.
Keep coming.
So
Yeah.
it's every bite of every meal of processed foods. It's all the hormones, chemicals, pesticides. It's the toxic water. It's the air pollutants. It's the stress the family's under. We call it the SAD day because it's the standard American day. And it includes the SAD diet, which is the standard American diet. So all of that is contributing towards the leaky gut. So once we stop doing step number 1, which are all the things that are causing that, and you've supplied the right nutrients, and now you're healing the gut, then we move into detoxification. So we and our pets have 6 organs of elimination. How interesting that we were designed with this cleaning system inside of our bodies: kidney, colon, lungs, liver, skin, and lymphatics / fascia. The fascia, we call it the Cinderella tissue. It's really become known over in the past 20 plus years. And so we're really learning so much about it. The lymphatics run through the fascia. So I consider them a package deal. And even though we treat them a little differently, we do address both of them. So that's detoxification. We just live in a world right now where there is such an imbalance to the amount of oxidative damage and free radicals that we are creating in our bodies. We create them by simply being alive, right? So, you can do just enough doing that. And then if you exercise hard, you're going to have a little bit more damage temporarily. And then if you start pounding in all of the other toxins and lifestyle factors that we're living under, the EMF and the lack of sleep and the anxiety, when you add all of that together, it becomes quite overwhelming. And our organs of elimination can no longer handle that level of toxicity. So the organs either get very inflamed or they start to not work at all. And that's what I see in a lot of our patients, their liver enzymes. Liver's in charge of hundreds of jobs. And when it becomes so bogged down that it just dragging along and it can't do its job anymore, the numbers go down, the liver enzyme numbers go down. And I would say over 80% of my patients, these numbers are below 20, which is very, very, very low. They should be in the mid 40s to the 90s. That's the normal range. And how I know that is because I've been practicing for 40 years. So I know what normal was back in my day. What the labs do is they keep every 6 months or so, they take an average of the population of their test and they start making a bell curve. Well, think about it. We're healthier 50 to 100 years ago because we didn't even have glyphosate back then. Were we a healthier population back then, a little less toxins? Versus, do I want to compare myself to people today
Mm-hmm.
That's an HE double hockey sticks. No, right? I want to compare myself to the healthy population because that's my target market.
Right.
Same thing with our animals. It's sometimes you have to have an older practitioner who remembers the good old days and has a way to understand how to actually read the labs, because these young doctors are coming out and they look, and if it's not red, oh, everything's fine. Well, no, it's not fine. They're giving you plenty of hints that there's a problem.
Right. I mean, I'm having a lot of those conversations about humans,
Yeah.
I'm, doing the whole menopause thing and the hormone tests and stuff like that. And, the doctors are like, you're in normal range.
Yeah. And that's not normal. So I can hook you up with some great people
Oh
afterwards.
my gosh.
And then number 5 is mitochondria.
Okay.
Because our mitochondria do 2 important functions. Most people know that they make the energy for our body. They call them the little power packs, but they also are the communication between themselves and our microbiome. And the communication happens through the fascia. How interesting. And so
Oh,
when we, through our sensory inputs, are giving communication to the mitochondria and to the microbiome, we're giving them information that they then have to translate and express genes based on that. So if we're giving them, the lunar module sending back pictures, are they friendly pictures or are they disaster? Right? Which way is your body going to respond? And so you will literally have genetic expression based on that communication. So that's that was the 5 steps. The 6th step is actually clearing trapped emotions that are associated with every dis-ease and including our pets. So we could go hours on that one because that goes down the woo-woo train and it's really cool. But emotions play a very major role in our health. And so just, if you don't mind, I'll touch upon it really briefly.
sure.
I think we live in a hologram. I think this is a holographic experience for us where we have a lot of tools once we wake up and realize what our tools are, like playing a video game, and I'm not a video game person. So
Right.
when I sit down at a new video game, I'm really lost. Like, I don't know what the characters mean. I don't know how to get to the next level. I don't know what's going to blow me up and what's going to make me big and strong. All of those, where the young generation, they just sit down, they somehow know how to do all that.
Right.
Well, the game of Earth School is very similar. We come in with a wiped slate. We're not supposed to remember anything, but we have a lot of clues that help us to figure out what we're doing. And they're really based on our emotions. So I think it's interesting that everything in our hologram has an opposite to it. Same for the emotions. So we have our lowest vibrating emotion before death is actually shame. Interesting. And then the other low vibrations are anger, frustration, bitterness, hatred. I mean, they even sound heavy and dark. And then as you come up the scale over to the other side, then we start having those high vibration emotions, which are love and generosity and compassion and kindness. And the highest, I won't put you on the spot, is actually gratitude. So your lowest is shame, your highest is gratitude. Many people think it's love, but gratitude is actually higher than love on the scale of energy. Sure. Yeah. That's why they talk about, every day, make sure that you start your day with items of gratitude and you end your day with items of gratitude, because it really does change the energy of your body. So what we can use our emotions for is, it's like your delete button. When you start realizing that you keep having these negative experiences, take the negative experience and then whittle it down till you can identify the emotion associated with it. Let's say it's anger or guilt. In my world, it's a lot of guilt because people are feeling bad that they caused their animal to be ill, or, they blame themselves. So we'll use guilt. So what you want to do is then look back through your archives, your life, and ask yourself, when have I experienced guilt before? And you'll find that these really strong emotions have patterns, and you've experienced it over and over and over and over. It's like your GPS coming back up and saying, here it is again. but you didn't deal with it. So here it is again. Oh, you missed it again. Here it is again. Until you become consciously aware that you're in a loop, you're re-experiencing this guilt because you haven't done anything with it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And I think the game is to transmute the low vibrating frequencies over to the high side, whatever their equal and opposite is. So that's how I look at life, and it has made it a whole lot more fun. So the animals also have the ability to share experiences with us. So it's never a coincidence that you have a particular pet in your life at a particular time in your life with their particular challenge and the experience that they're sharing with you.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something behind that. And even though I would love to say, we cure and fix every patient we treat, that's really not what the game of life is. We all are leaving this planet at some point. Are we leaving in grace? Have we accomplished what we hope to accomplish? Have we left the place better than we found it? Or are we just a victim that's going down the luge and hitting the railing back and forth because we're not in control? So I think we're supposed to have some level of conscious awakening and realize that we do have the power to create whatever we choose to create. It's a big statement that we really do have the power, whether or not you have the belief system that you are worthy, or that you have the power, or that you have the training or knowledge. That's the BS that lays on top. And that comes from our families, our upbringing, the schooling that we've had. You and I off air, where we're talking about how so many veterinarians are still recommending processed pet foods and vaccines and lots of drugs and pharmaceuticals, and how is it that in today's modern world, how are they still doing that? And it's because they were indoctrinated into a belief system that this is the way it is. It takes something to knock you out of that sandbox.
Right.
You have to have some kind of a life experience that takes you above that and allows you to question, is that really the truth? Is that really the best? Is that really nothing else that we can do? Or is that just the limiting belief of those who taught me? And the reality is it's always going to be somebody's limiting belief, because there's always something more that can be done. And that was my story. So I was already practicing as a veterinarian for 15 years, very intuitive. I always had those skills. I always had mediumship skills. So that was a pretty natural part of who I was, but I wasn't practicing a holistic approach. I was pretty allopathic. And because I was good at what I did, a lot of my patients got better, but we had my fair share of relapses. And then about 15, well, first I had my awakening, which was my show horse and my youngest daughter were in an arena, and they had already lost their class because the horse had done a gait she wasn't supposed to do twice in the class. So she's in lineup. Trainers are standing in front of our little walk trot riders. My daughter was 10, and she's on this humongous horse. And all of a sudden, the horse starts to twitch her neck, like something was attacking her neck and her ears. And the trainer reached her hand up to move her hair, thinking it was tickling her ears, and the horse reared in the air. And the number one cause of a rider's death is the horse falling over and crushing their rider. So we have a 50-pound, 10-year-old child, a 2,000-pound horse. And my daughter, no one ever taught her, if your horse rears, just jump off to the side, just let go, bail, just get away so that she doesn't land on you. Instead, my daughter was holding onto the reins. It was the only thing she had in her hands. And so she's trying to balance and not fall off while the horse is flailing her legs, trying to find the ground. But my daughter was a 50-pound fulcrum, so she was pulling the horse over backwards. It seemed like a lifetime that it was happening in, but of course it's seconds. And even the trainer didn't really have time to react and grab my daughter off. So when the horse went over, my daughter had just started to fall just to the side of the horse. But when the horse hit the ground, you couldn't see space between the two of them. I was already jumping over the rail and running to her, not knowing what I was going to find. By the grace of God, the horse caught her breath and got up, and my daughter was still on the ground. And when I got there, I called her name. She opened her eyes.
Oh
And
my gosh.
the only thing she hurt was her pride. Amazing. But that wasn't the end of the story, because back home, we had a couple more incidences. And then I had equine vets come out and they said, I'm sorry, Dr. Siegel, we can't tell you exactly what's wrong with Lily, but we can tell you she's not safe to ride. She'll never be shown again. She's 7 years old, world champion, United States and Canada. And she'd saved my daughter's life. So, aside, the part of the story is that when she was being pulled over backwards, the horse squatted on her left hind leg, and as hard as she could, you could see her doing it. She pushed herself like a plie and then a push to the opposite side of where my daughter was falling. It only gave them like literally millimeters of space. It wasn't a lot because she's still being pulled over backwards. But I watched that. I'll never forget watching her squat down and push herself. It was like this imprinted memory that like really happened. And so when they were telling me, there's nothing more that can be done, you can put her out to a pasture, you could put her down, it was unacceptable. Mm-hmm. And it was that moment, that pivotal moment of my life where I said, I am not willing to accept there's nothing more that can be done.
Right.
Appreciate that you don't have any other answers, but I'm going to seek other answers. And that was right when functional medicine on the human side was just becoming a thing. So I'm immersing myself in every webinar and every program, and I'm calling the experts on the panels, and they're going, I'm sorry, we don't do horses.
We don't do horses.
And cats. And they said, I don't care if you don't do them. You tell me what you would do for a person.
Right.
I will figure out how to extrapolate it. And so that began my quest. And then I learned how to do chiropractics on horses. And then I learned some acupuncture. And then I learned better diet, nutrition, and, one thing after another. And I, for the first time, I will say in a webinar that I just said goodbye to Lily just a couple months ago. So she lived almost into her 30s.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, she was 7 years old when this happened. And I'm like, horses live a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we did have to say goodbye, but, she got to live out a wonderful life as a horse afterwards.
Right.
But
23
before she did
years.
that, she and my youngest daughter, 5 months after being told that she would never be ridden again, they went on to win the United States Youth Reserve National Championship. It's the most prestigious horse show amongst youth riders in the country.
Amazing.
One reserve national champion after I was told she would never be ridden again. But I was working on her every day on the road trips. I'm constantly doing chiropractic and laser and all the things that I could do on the road for her.
Right.
And she was just a magnificent athlete.
Oh, that's a happy story.
Yeah.
I mean, terrifying all those years ago. Oh my gosh.
Oh, I had PTSD for so many years. Did she really live? Did she get crushed? It was horrible, horrible, horrible. And, your mind plays tricks on you. But it was in being told that there was nothing more that could be done. I made a vow that I would never utter those words to a pet parent. Doesn't mean all my patients live. Sometimes the right thing is to help them transition with quality and dignity. But at least I can offer the right thing. And I can offer other tools and modalities that help to either reverse disease or improve quality of life. Because quality of life is always our first conversation. Has to be.
Well, and nothing is more frustrating as a human, for your pets or for a family member is we don't know. Like that is like the worst answer.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. And sadly, because euthanasia is legal in our profession, it is a shame that I hear so many pet parents coming to me and they said, I came from this vet, that referral center. I can't tell you how many of my cases came from that situation where they were told there was nothing more that could be done. And we just dive in and say, let's do the best that we can.
Right.
In every single situation, those pet parents were so grateful that even if the experience didn't last for,
you weren't giving up.
And they live forever. And yeah, I'd love to say that, but in reality, we're going to live on the other side of the veil forever, but not on this side. And so they have a better feeling about themselves, the decisions they made, the fact that they at least tried.
Mhm.
It gives people a lot of peace. A lot of the guilt that I hear is because they said, I should have done more. I should have, could have, would have, those things that we beat ourselves up over. So this gives people an opportunity to do the very best that they can within the means that they have. And we just see, I hate to call it miracles, because I think the body is so resilient that when we follow those 6 steps and we quit damaging it and we give it what it needs to heal and we kind of biohack it, we
Yeah,
support the pathways that are already there.
totally.
It is miraculous what the body can do. We just have to get out of the way.
Right. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What a story.
Yeah. So, what I want to tie that into is having people understand that it's not what you do on a given day. It's not, oh, today I'm going to take my supplements. Today I'm going to eat healthy. Today I'm going to take a walk and exercise. No, it becomes your lifestyle. So for me, I don't want to say militant because I just I just broke my own rule last weekend, but anytime I am in control of my food source, it's all going to be organic. Of course, here at home, 100%. But even when I eat out, if I know I'm going somewhere, I'll call ahead, I'll speak to the chef. I'll tell them I cannot eat canola oil. I cannot eat any seed oils, no vegetable oil, no gluten, usually no dairy, because the dairy is not going to be organic out there anyway. And so there's several things that are an absolute no for me. Well, last weekend I had a wedding, family wedding, and it was being catered, so I didn't have an opportunity to call the caterer and find out what they were going to be serving. So, we just said, for one day, I'm going to let my guard down. I'm just going to enjoy the wedding, and I'll probably be sneezing the next day, but I'll take some antihistamines or whatever. Well, that's not what actually happened. I ate everything. The next morning we drove back. So 5 hours down to Miami and 5 hours back. I had a laptop on my lap, and my head was bent down. I'm working on my computer. So I'm already straining my back. Then all that inflammation that hit all at the same time. And I ended up blowing my back out. So I'm standing talking to you right now because it hurts to sit. So, there's no one to blame but me. I knew not to eat that. I know that my body's so clean that when I put toxins in it, I'm going to have a response. I wasn't anticipating my back going out. Very rarely happens in my life. And so, lesson learned, the reactions are getting harder and stronger because inflammation will always go to the weakest link in your body.
Right.
This particular case, I had strained my neck and my back from 5 hours of keeping my head down, looking at a computer, down and then back in 36 hours doing the same thing.
Right.
So I was already kind of straining my back, and then that inflammation hit, and that was my weakest link. So the reason for the story is to help people that are listening. Do you have any aches and pains? Do you have a little GI problem? Are you a little overweight? Do you feel like you have inflammation? Do your fingers lock when you open and close them? Do you have allergies or skin problems? None of that is normal. None of it is acceptable. That means that there's something in your lifestyle that you are doing that is creating this low-grade insidious inflammation. And then that inflammation will build over time and become worse things, i.e., autoimmune disease, cancer, osteoarthritis, whatever, and it's happening in our pets as well. The difference with the pets is that they don't have a choice. They rely on us to do our fiduciary responsibility as their pet guardian to take care of them. And the only way we can know how to do that is to learn what truly is healthcare. We've been living in a world of broke care. This broke care system waits for us to have a symptom, and then you squash it with a pharmaceutical or a surgical procedure.
Right. And that's pets and people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is happening on the people side. And then, but we were taught the same way on the animal side. So it's all the symptom suppression, but nobody addressing the root cause. I mean, just think about the last time you listeners, last time you had a headache. Did you just pop an aspirin, or did you stop and ask, am I dehydrated? Am I toxic? Have I had enough sleep? Is my body in balance? Do I have heavy metals? Or do I have nutrient deficiencies? Like nobody's asking those questions. And yet that's
Right.
why you have a headache, right? So you take and you squash the symptom. Well, what's the body going to do? It's going to talk to you a little louder next time. And it's going to say, dude, I'm trying to get your attention. Okay. I'm going to knock you on your butt where you can't hardly walk. And now I have your attention. And I
Right.
said, yeah, thank you. I take full responsibility. I'll own that one. And I got to heal it because I'm on a plane in a week. So I have to make this go away. And this is day 6, but I'm at least walking now. So it's serious. But think of all the people that are out there that are living with their chronic ailments day in and day out, but they're not changing their lifestyle. They're not connecting their lifestyle to their symptom. And
Right.
that's what I want people to take away is do it for yourself. And that's the same thing that's applying to your pets. When they give you a symptom, there's an underlying cause.
Right. Whew. Yes. And so, I mean, so we're talking a little bit about diet, and I just wanted to make sure to bring up the fact that you are growing your own food.
Yeah. I grow
Um,
my own food. I make a lot of my own medicine from the medicinal part of my food forest. I've always enjoyed being outdoors. I've always enjoyed gardening. When I was in undergraduate school, I had a garden. So I always enjoyed growing.
does that?
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Oh gosh, I was in my 20s, so 50 years ago. And I would pay a guy to come over with his tractor and dig up my backyard. And then I put in my corn and peanuts and my vegetables, and it was amazing. Now, I do more of a regenerative farming now, and I literally have a food forest 360 around my house. There's trees, there's bushes, there's almost everything produces something either for me or for the microbiome of the soil or for my bees, because I have bees and I have worms. So everything feeds somebody in this environment, in this ecosystem. And then I go out and I make my own herbal teas. I make a lot of my own vinegars and medicinal medicines. We just had tons of acorns because we had 3 hurricanes come through all in a row. So of
Heard
course,
about him.
yeah. Are you in Florida? No, you're in
No.
Virginia. So we had all these oak tree limbs in my yard were down. I mean, we're talking massive branches that were down. So I picked literally a dozen gallons of acorns.
Gallons.
Gallons,
Oh my
yes,
gosh.
yes. And they're spread all over my tables, getting dried, and then you make tinctures out of it. And so those tinctures are wonderful. So when I travel, I have my little 1 ounce tinctures of everything. So God forbid, if I'm out and exposed to something, I have my instant remedies to take care of it.
Wow.
Yeah. And we make our own cleaning products as well. My daughter's into essential oils. And so we make our own cleaning products. We sell them on on our website as well, and to our clients. I started doing for our own personal lifestyle when my girls were 8 and 10 years old. I started having clients that were coming in whose daughters were in their 20s with breast cancer. Now we're going back 20 years, 20, 25 years. And I thought, wow, that's not right. Why are we seeing girls that are 13 years old getting breast? And why are we seeing 20-year-olds having breast cancer?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started back then researching. So the first things I changed in my household were cleaning products and personal body care products, laundry, soap, shampoos, conditioners, makeup. We spend that extra money and we have no chemicals in our products whatsoever.
Same. Cool.
Yeah. And then the food came a little bit after that. We built our house in about 30 years ago. And then I started with a few trees here and there. And I said, I want to live in a food forest.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's been 30 years. So I have trees that are big canopies. It's really cool.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
think that's fantastic. And I mean, do you is that just for you? Like, do you have extra for the community or like a farm stand or anything like that? Or
Yeah, I don't. There's some clients that I'll supply some stuff to, but for the most part, we either freeze dry or we freeze or we cook it and freeze it. And so there's soups. I do a lot of soups because I can put so many greens in my soups. I'll do soups and beans and everything that came out of the garden, the herbs. one of my favorites is to do tinctures with honey. So my latest favorite is to take honey and I add my hot peppers and some cayenne and ginger and lemon or lime
Oh, is
peels.
that called fire honey?
It's not exactly the same
Okay.
solution, but it's very similar to that. And I love it because I'll shred the ginger, which comes out of my garden. And then when you take a scoop, you have some pepper in there, you have some ginger in there. I put cinnamon in mine. And so it has this blend of the most amazing, like every taste bud is activated all
Sure.
at the same time. It is absolutely delicious. So I do a lot of vinegars, which are also very healthy. And we do a lot of freeze drying. I have a commercial freeze dryer. So we do a lot of freeze drying and yeah, it's a lot of fun. And then try
Wow.
to eat in season. So that's important because things don't last forever. So when it's Suriname cherry season, we feast on Suriname cherries, or if it's blueberries, or if it's mulberries, or if it's loquat, it's a lot all at one time. And then we make leathers, or it just eat as much as we can and make
Right.
smoothies and whichever. But yeah, it's really fun, and it gets you back out into Mother Nature. And this is where it ties back. So number one, it's a lifestyle. So people are talking about, I don't have time and I'm so disconnected, and their microbiome is horrible because they're not replenishing their microbiome. Do you know when you pull one weed, you get like over 100,000 organisms are aerated that now go on your skin or you breathe them in? These are healthy microbes. These are the ones that our body thrives on. So it's important that we re-expose ourselves, that we do grounding, that we touch Mother Earth, that we start having gratitude for what we're eating. So on my Instagram page, we have Food Forest Friday. So if anybody wants to see the food forest, I post stuff on there. And it brings you back to the connectivity of being in this world. It's so important. We're such a disconnected world. And people say, oh, I don't have time to do all the things that you do. Well, I don't watch TV. Now, I'm also single, so I get a little extra free time in there. But, if I did have a partner, I'd have him out there recording.
Right. Extra
So,
help.
yeah, do it together. But I think these are principles on how we live, bringing gratitude back into our lives, learning how to do diaphragmatic breathing and do it with your pets next to you because they'll entrain to that energy, and start doing things in your life that contribute to the world around you, to contribute to your health and your pet's health and to the health of Mother Earth. So when we start thinking like that, our world really does start taking a different turn. When you go out to eat, ask before you sit down, ask what they cook your food in. Will they cook it in healthy oils, like just straight olive oil? Oh, here's a good one. A lot of restaurants will tell you they cook in olive oil, but if you ask them, is it cut with canola oil? 99% of it will be cut with canola oil. And usually it's 85% canola and 15% olive oil. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
But they
people,
call it olive oil.
they call it olive oil because it gives it the taste of olive oil, that little
Right. Just
50%.
enough to taste like
Yeah,
it.
and high-end restaurants, I'm telling you, Amy, it's
Right.
not limited to McDonald's, right? You're spending a lot of money, $100, $200 for a meal, and they're cooking your food in canola oil.
Right.
Shameful. But
Yeah.
you have to ask. And the more of us that ask and say, I'm sorry, always say you have an allergy, by the way, because by law, they have to acknowledge that and they can't give that to you. So, you tell them that you have an allergy to gluten, you have an allergy to seed oils, including vegetable oil, canola oil, and soy, because all those are going to be genetically modified.
Right.
And
Pro tip, you guys.
yeah,
Listen to this.
yeah. And the more people that do that,
Yeah.
imagine if 10 people go into a restaurant and they all go, I'm sorry, you can't cook something healthy for me. And they walk out.
Right.
That owner just saw a lot of dollar signs go out the door.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that every restaurant has to convert their entire menu, but they should at least have
Able to accommodate.
two organic options, one vegetarian and one with a protein, and offer it. It's not that hard. And in those diets, you have no GMOs and no gluten. Just try it, because you just don't realize how many people actually are suffering with their health
Right.
And they're eating that. I think we started our conversation with, I was aware. And so I know when I've done that to my body, it's like within hours. But so many people aren't making the connection.
Right.
So I'm hoping as people are listening to this podcast that they go, oh, you mean my trigger finger that keeps locking up? You mean that's not normal? No, that's inflammation. Your
Mhm.
sinuses, your skin, your aches and pains, your lack of energy, all of that is
Right.
all inflammation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think if you're paying $100 and you're going out to a nice restaurant or an expensive restaurant, you expect that you're eating healthy food. And
Uh,
that's the kicker. You know, they're still cutting corners like everyone else.
Absolutely. I'm opening a franchise. It's detox centers for pets and their parents. And so I'm at the franchise conference and they take us out to dinner and I'm sitting next to a lovely young man and he's telling me about his restaurant and how excited it's like a hamburger kind of spot and he sees everybody out in the families that are out in the waiting room. And so then we got into, well, what do you cook and what do you cook in? And he was telling me all vegetable oil. And as I said to him, that causes cancer. And you're looking out at all these lovely people that are coming in that want to enjoy your restaurant. I said, wouldn't it make you feel bad to know that you contributed to somebody's illness, especially a
Mhm.
child? And he started to tear up. And I thought, oh, I went too far. I'm sorry. It turned out that his 3-year-old daughter
Oh my
had
gosh.
just been diagnosed with celiac disease.
Oh,
3 years old. And the fact that I just equated her to other children
yeah,
out
that hit.
in his lobby area, it really hit home. So I've never seen him afterwards. I don't know if he changed his menu. I hope that he did. But, it was just a powerful story. And I think we all have that power within us to decide on who are we going to give our dollars to, right?
Hmm.
When you give your dollars to a restaurant that is serving you toxic food, you're voting for that toxic food. When
Right.
you buy processed pet food, then you're supporting that industry. Now, if you already have your pet and you happen to have a big dog, yes, it's going to be more expensive, but you're going to spend the money on vet bills. Like I've never had somebody not bring their dog to the vet and they spend money on diagnostics and then get their diagnosis and then they find out it's bad and they feel terrible and they're trying everything they can. So they spend so much money there trying to fix the problem when if they had invested in a healthier diet to begin with, then I'm not guaranteeing that wouldn't have happened, but the incidents we know statistically would have been a lot less.
Way less.
But
Yeah.
we have to think differently. We have to think healthcare and shame on us that we allow companies to serve us frankenfood and frankenfood to our pets for less money than real food. When real food costs less to grow, and yet this frankenfood had to be commercially made and steel and machines and workers and buildings and all this chemical and you're going to say that that's worth it, to me
Mhm.
it's not.
Right.
So I think as we start to demand healthier outcomes, we will start seeing it happen. And not getting political here, but I I really do hope we can make America healthy again. And I don't care who leads the charge. I just
Right.
want to see it happen. I don't care if it's an elephant or a donkey. It doesn't matter to me. Make it happen because
Right.
I want to leave a world for the kids behind me that is a sustainable world.
Mm. That's really powerful. My gosh. So I know that you have a course. You
Mhm.
want to talk about your course for a couple minutes?
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you. So it's
Mm.
called the Empowered Pet Parent Course. And it empowers pet parents. The course is about 3 hours long. The first 30 minutes is statistics and a little bit about who I am and why I'm doing what I do so people can relate to the story. And then the next 2.5 hours is teaching pet parents how to get proper diagnostics. It's not going to be what your regular vet offers you. It teaches them how to do detoxification of the 6 organs. It teaches them about a sustainable diet and how to support the microbiome. I actually talk about trapped emotions and understanding the emotional role in dis-ease. And then I showcase presentations. I mean, there's more, but that's the highlight. And then the case presentations are of almost everything from cancer to paralysis to wounds to everything, and just showing pet parents how healing can look without pharmaceuticals and without, in many cases, surgical intervention.
Right.
You don't know, how are you going to make a decision, right? You have to know better to do better. But once you see, you can't unsee. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it. And so we're really encouraging pet parents to be the force behind the veterinary industry. Like I'm talking about restaurants getting better food. Go to your veterinarian who you have a relationship with, who you sure like and trust, and just say, I love you, but I want to have more of this kind of medicine. I want to be more proactive. I want to practice preventative medicine for my pet. And will you learn how to do this so we can do this together? And most veterinarians would be at least intrigued. And then I have a course for veterinarians. So the basic course for the veterinarians is 34 hours because it teaches them everything the pet parent learns, but of course, more on the treatment side and deeper dive into the explanations. And every single veterinarian that I have trained has told me that it transformed their life because they end up living the life very similar to me, right? Once I learned something, I incorporated it into my practice and into my personal lifestyle. So now I couldn't even imagine not living like this. When people come and stay with me, they go, oh my God, I don't think I could do this. But at the end of 2 or 3 days, they go, I want you to coach me. I want to be a mini you, and I want to learn how to do this. And they go home and they start little flower beds or gardens or raised beds or whatever they do. They start, the first time they have herbs out of the garden and they make a tea out of that, it's life-changing. We'll do that again and again and again. So it's really fun. And, here's a really important point that I think we all need to hear. The more we are unconscious with our lifestyle, the more toxins we dump onto Mother Earth. So when you're buying products that are full of chemicals and pesticides and bad ingredients and petroleum-based products, when you buy that, and plastics, it goes back into Mother Earth. Mother Earth is dying.
Right.
It is predicted we will have less than 70 years on this planet, 70. And that's from Dr. Zach Bush. So what do we need to do differently? Well, we need to clean up our lifestyle. So the more sustainable you feed your pet, the more sustainable you take care of yourself, the less toxins are going into Mother Earth. And then those companies who are making these products, they don't have anybody to buy it.
Right.
So they're going to follow the money and they're going to go, oh, look, everybody's buying that over there. Well, let's
get in on that.
Yeah, we're going to go shift over there and we're going to make those products because that's what people want. The raw food industry was very much like that. I got to tell you this story. So back when I started my raw food company, there were only a couple of foods out there that were raw food companies. And one of them did not use grass-fed, grass-finished products. The other one also didn't confirm that it was always grass-fed, grass-finished, and they used synthetic vitamins and minerals. And so I couldn't deal with either one of those because I'm dealing with cancer patients. They can't afford another drop of toxin. So I put my fist down and all these companies were saying, no, we don't want to bother with that. Well, are you trying to get healthier pets or are you just trying to get a dollar? And I'm a capitalist. I will tell you, it's nice to make money because you can do a lot of good things with money. And I keep reinvesting my money. So I have no money issues. I can't wait to open.
But how do you sleep at night?
I know, right? If you're evil. So, I decided to make my own product and it matches every checkbox that I needed. Well, what was interesting is as the years go by, we see more and more of these raw pet food companies popping up and people come to me and they go, oh, what do you think of this brand? What do you think of that brand? I'm like there's gazillions of them out there now. And my benchmarks are, is it grass-fed, grass-finished? Important distinction because grass-fed can mean that animal was out on the pasture for 1 day and the rest of the time it was in a feedlot eating corn. So it has to be grass-fed, grass-finished, free range if it's poultry, not fed corn and soy, and that it was actually outside, and had the elements and sun and all that. So very important. And then no synthetics. And I don't believe, having the way I had to put my diet together, animals aren't designed to eat vegetables. Like they literally have no amylase in their saliva. They don't chew their vegetables up because they just tear, gulp, and swallow. And so actually feeding them uncooked, undigested vegetables is actually harder on their system because now their pancreas has to work even harder to digest all of that. It's not something we think about, right?
Yeah. My dog loves raw broccoli.
A piece or two here or there, but like a lot of it would be challenging for him to digest it. But the way they got their greens and their vegetables was eating the intestines out of the herbivore that they hunted and killed, or the rabbit or whatever, right? But now they're eating these greens and vegetables already digested, already broken down enzymatically digested for them. So when you're buying a food and it lists all of these fruits and vegetables in it, come on, let's put our little critical thinking cap on. Do we see any documentaries of wild animals going into pastures and eating blueberries and corn and broccoli and squash? They don't do that, right? And there's a reason. They weren't designed to do that. But in captivity, these animals are going to eat whatever we give them. And then the last point about buying a raw food product with vegetables is they're acting as a big filler. So now you're paying meat prices for vegetables, which gives them a bigger profit margin because it's not all meat.
Yep.
Yeah. And we don't even know the quality of the vegetable. Even if it's organic, it doesn't mean it has all the nutrients. How was it grown? What was the soil conditions? Right? Do they have the micronutrients in there or not? So when I made my food, what I did is I separated the macronutrients from the micronutrients. I had to get around the way their labeling laws were because I wasn't going to put synthetics and toxins into my food. Right. So I created the macronutrients, the meat, the fat, the bone, and the organ meat in the proper balances. And then separately, I have my vitamin mineral, my fatty acids, and my amino acids, which are the essentials that they have to have. And now the owner, in the privacy of their own home, can now add in the nutrients that that animal needs based on body weight and metabolic need. So thank you to the universe. You just have to get creative and figure out, how do we get around the insanity? And you get around the insanity by having some common sense and using critical thinking skills to solve a problem. So it worked.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. This is so much information and it's fascinating. And oh my gosh. Can you, I was reading the stats on cancer, and can you just shoot that out really quickly? Because
Sure.
It's shocking.
Cancer in dogs, and this is a 10-year-old statistic, Amy. Cancer in dogs was 1 out of 1.65. I think it's much higher now, which is almost 100% already.
Right.
And we're seeing cancers in animals under a year of age. And then cats, they say, is 1 out of 3, absolutely underreported. We're seeing massive amounts of cancer. But then if you include obesity, autoimmune disease, gastrointestinal problems, vomiting, diarrhea, osteoarthritis or arthritis problems, it's literally, and skin issues. 100% of the animals that we're seeing are going to come down with some form of illness. And in many cases, it will be chronic illness, which if I catch them early enough, I can actually clear it up with no pharmaceuticals.
You heard it here, you guys.
Yeah.
So Dr. Siegel, I appreciate your time so much. Could you just answer a couple questions for me? So I ask everyone on the podcast, what does the word sustainability mean to you?
The word sustainability to me means that we're living in a condition that helps to promote the health and well-being of the planet and those species on the planet.
Awesome. Okay. And second question, how can people find you and learn more and,
Super
do better?
Yeah. DR, and then my name, drmarlenesiegel.com, is the hub of everything me. And we have a community in there. If people take the pet parent course, you're automatically in our community, where we just started the community. So it's really like a new baby for me, but it's a forum where veterinarians and pet parents and even industry leaders can come together and share information and ask questions. It's not about diagnosing and treating people's animals. We can't legally do that. And we always get people who will write in and say, my animal has this problem. How do I fix it? And all of us are under a legal restriction. We have to have a client-patient relationship in order to diagnose and treat somebody. But if they take the Empowered Pet Parent course, I can be their health coach, which means that any of the material that I cover in that program, I can help them to implement it. I can help them get the diagnostics done. I can help with the interpretation of those diagnostics. So everything in the health coaching program is fair game. And then if they still need to go further than that, then I can consult with their veterinarian, or they come to Florida. And once we have an established relationship, just one time, then I have the ability to help them because they're my patient.
Right. Okay. And also Food Forest Fridays on Instagram?
Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, I believe. Yeah, we cover, and TikTok. So I think we're on all those platforms.
My
And
goodness.
yeah, I really encourage people to grow something. I don't care if it's a basil plant in your window, grow something. And don't tell me you have a black thumb. It isn't true. Get rid of that belief system and implant a new belief system, which is I am sustainable. I am thriving. I am supporting Mother Earth with my love and my gratitude.
Wow. That's awesome.
That was a delivered message.
My goodness. Thank you so much for this message. I'm feeling very, very excited to put this into practice.
Yes.
So
yes. And let's hope a lot of people join you. So don't just, they call it analysis paralysis. Don't sit there and get so bogged down and, oh my God, I'm doing everything wrong. You got to start somewhere, and you take one step, and then you take another step, and you just keep adding something to do, something to stop doing, something to do, something to stop doing. And every week you just add one new thing and you delete one thing. Super easy and sustainable because it's not overwhelming. You're only doing one thing. And then before you know it, a couple months has gone by and you've transformed your house, you've transformed your life, you feel better, and your pets are getting healthier.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Dr. Marlene Siegel, I appreciate you so much and everything that you're doing. I am looking forward to sharing this.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you for getting the word out. Appreciate it.
I just want to take a second to thank my guest again for speaking with me and sharing such great information. I love having these conversations with folks. I also want to thank Buzzsprout for hosting the podcast, for Jane Bolduck and her music genius, for Becca Coffron and her award-winning artwork. And thank you for listening. I appreciate that so much. Please check out the show notes for any links and extra information. And if you would like to follow my guest and find out more about them, I'm sure they would love the follow. And if you don't mind leaving a rating or review wherever you're listening, and just help to get this podcast in front of new eyes, that would be amazing. I would really love that. And feel free to reach out to me on the socials and let me know what you're thinking. And if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, please let me know that. I would love to have a conversation with you about sustainability. All right. Thank you again. I hope you have a great rest of the week.
There'll come a day, my mama told me, when I find love to have and hold me, a heart that's strong and so sincere. Just tell me, how do I get there from here? Oh, tell me, how do I get there from here? 'Cause here and now I'm so far down that mercy's bound. we'll find a way to soothe the sickness. We'll heal the ache with sweet forgiveness. Wages of war will disappear. Just tell me, how do I get there from here? I wonder, how do I get there from here? Yeah, 'cause here now I'm so far down, and mercy's bound, yeah, to find me. When that state of grace has finally found me, well, there'll be music, ooh, and good friends around me, yeah, yeah. And I'll just smile through happy tears.